Chairperson of the Board of Governors, Srimati Anita Karwal, members of the Board of Governors, Headmaster Mr. Himmat Dhillon, President of the Old Sanarian Society, General Kupreet Singh, Head Girl Pavit Sidhu, and Head Boy Aryaman Singh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, staff and students. It is indeed a singular honor for me to be invited to be the chief guest at the Sana Founders. I think it's the 173rd Founders, to be chief guest of my old school. I cannot imagine anything honoring me more than to be invited to this function and to be able to speak. I must also say at this moment how proud I feel that the headmaster was a student of mine. And so I'm, in a sense, being honored by an old student, and in return, I'm honoring him. Following in my footsteps is for me a very, very proud moment for having Himmat as the headmaster. Congratulations, Himmat, and hopefully you will take the school to greater and greater heights. This beautiful hilltop, some of you may see my photograph that I keep behind me of my school, was home to me and my family for 14 long years. And so today, I'm really filled with nostalgia. I'm reminded of all the very lovely moments I spent at the school, the daily excitement, the challenges, the successes, the extraordinary spirit of every Sanarian in the school, laughing under adverse circumstances with such high spirits. I've rarely met children so spirited as a Sanarian. But today, you know, I'm not going to indulge in nostalgia because that would take far too long and would, in a sense, look back rather than look forward. So it is my pleasure today to talk to the staff and students, but especially the students, for the future. The headmaster's address showed how very successful the school has been. I just remembered that he must be the third old Sanarian headmaster, and that's a very good thing for an old Sanarian to come back to his alma mater to head. I would like to say that this is an important step that the Board of Governors took. And I have no doubt that the school will continue to do well, but it will need to readjust along with the rest of the world. I'm speaking to a screen, and all that excitement I felt when I saw the parade, the school band, the trooping of the colors, all face to face, is not there. And indeed, the whole world is suffering from the same virtual feeling which encompasses us all. Where this virtual thing will take us, I don't know. But let me congratulate all the students, staff, and Bolsonarians for their dedication and success in the school. When I was a child, I'm sorry, I think I mixed up my pages. Anyway, when I was a child, as I was saying, I was taught tables, and the tables went up to 16. And so we had to learn that 16 16s were 256, and 16 12s are 192, and so on. And we had to learn this for a very interesting reason. The reason was that there were 16 annas to a rupee, something that most of you will not have known or ever seen. But the strange thing is that we are taught tables even today, and it's no longer necessary. Some people say that for improving the mathematical muscles of the brain, it's probably a good thing to do tables. But it is unnecessary. Alas, we go on teaching tables, and along with it, many other things which are obsolete. I was looking at the syllabus in physics, which is my subject, and we are teaching old-fashioned things and, of course, modern things. But what we have done is added more and more to the syllabus and made it larger and larger and make it more modern. Fortunately, the new education policy, which actually is a follow-up from the 1966 education report by the Kothari Commission, which was a brilliant report, also expresses the liberalization and the modernization of what we are going to teach. And this is something that I hope the Education Ministry will actually follow up on if they can, because it is a very far-reaching report. On the other hand, my experience with education reports has been very negative, and very little of all the reports that have been put in front of us has ever been properly implemented. Take the 10+2. It was meant to bifurcate students into those who followed academic courses and those who followed more, that's courses of skill in hand and eye. But none of that actually ever took place. So, if the academic council can implement the new education policy, it would be a great feather in their cap. This policy tends to remove the straitjacket into which the boards have put us in having streams. There's the science stream, and there's the commerce stream, and sometimes, very often not, there's the arts stream. And the art stream are for those who are not so-called brilliant. Such a pity. In fact, what the new education policy talks about is broad-based change so that we can do things in different topics and liberalize our education up to the school level. I'm delighted to see that, and I did try this when I was at Sanaa, but because of the constraints of the board, I was unable to do so. Even today, I see that we are talking about the arts stream and the commerce stream and the science stream. But preparing students for the future, and look at the future. Just see what a tiny particle called a virus, which you cannot see with the naked eye, nor with ordinary microscopes. It requires very sophisticated instruments. It's so small. Has brought the entire world to a standstill. And that's an eye-opener. And I hope we also look at it like that. Not all the technology that we know, not all the science that we know, not all the skills that we have has been able to overcome the problems that this world faces due to this tiny, tiny particle. So there's a paradigm shift taking place in the world as we readjust to working, for instance, virtually like this. And what is happening? What are we teaching our children? The same old obsolete stuff. Not all of it, but quite a lot of obsolete stuff. I've always said that after 14 years of school education, what does a school do? And here I'm talking generally, not specifically of Sanaa. The school gives a certificate given by the board, and everyone applauds. And even today we are applauding, and rightly so. It's a very difficult exam. So I do congratulate all the students who've done so well. But the point I'm trying to make is that the school has become more a certifying agency than a school for education. We spend more time spending in the classroom 5 to 6 hours a day in order that the children at the end of the 14 years gets a certificate. And what does the certificate do? What does it qualify you for? You are still unemployable. After 14 years, you are unemployable. That's a great indictment of our education. It happens not only in this country, but all over countries. And so what we do is we go for another certificate in a college. I did many years in college. It was fun, but I was not employable almost even after the end of it. I had to learn from scratch how to teach. When I joined teaching, I knew nothing about teaching. So here we are, spending so much time with our children to, in a sense, to be sarcastic, to make them unemployable. What I would like to tell our students is something a little different to learning, because what are we going to learn? What I learned, I've already illustrated, when I was young, is hardly of any use today. I've had to go on learning, and that's a good thing, to learn. But what we learned was completely obsolete. So the rapid change that is taking place is something which you can never keep pace with. The rapid changes are so rapid we cannot keep pace with. At the turn of this century, in the year 2000, the phone came into being. And today, all of us, I'm keeping one next to me because it's a lifeline somehow. Now the smartphone has been developed from the first computers. And do you know, the first computers were in a building 6 floors high, using as much power as a small city, and having a memory, a RAM, random access memory, of 100 KB. This device, which we now carry universally, all of us in our pockets, is a million times more powerful. That has been the progress in less than 60, 70 years. So, and that's towards the end of my life. Now imagine a boy leaving school today, or a girl leaving school today. What will he be encountering when he is of my age? It will be at the turn of this century. And as things are going, it seems to me that we will be fitter and stronger and be more capable of working at my age than I am. Now, the problem is we don't even, the pace of change is so fast that we cannot even predict what will happen 5 years from now. And if you are overtaken by crises like the pandemic, which completely floors us, how do we cope? So for me, education is to be, in the future, more the education of life skills. The other things follow. You know, you just switch on your computer, your TV, and go to YouTube, and you'll get lessons on every aspect of learning. And you'll be able to interact with all that. You don't even have to go to a school. I think it's very important that you do go to school, but you don't have to if you want to learn something. So, the question is, what do we teach our children to face this uncertain future, this rapidly changing world? And for this, you have to arm yourself. Every child has to be armed with the following. And I call them life skills. And these are the skills of 10 C's, as I call them. The first one, and I'll go through this rather quickly because otherwise I'll use up too much time. The first one is curiosity. It's a skill that we are born with, but in our system we do our best to dumb it down. I used to be, I've lost my head trying to teach children to ask questions and be curious, because the book didn't say what I wanted them to look at. And everything had to go by the book. So curiosity is a very important skill. It's a skill, although we are born inherently with it. And our classes must be geared towards encouraging curiosity. You know, the skill of a good teacher, I'm not saying that I am, but I got a letter the other day from an old Sonarian lady who's crossed the half century, saying, "Sir, I hated physics, but I loved your classes." And she loved my classes because I made them fun. I made them curious about asking questions. And that is one of the skills that a teacher must have. And that is to teach, to make children love their subject. Because a child learns best when they learn what they want to learn. And the teacher has to use all the skills like curiosity to make them want to learn that subject. The second very important C that I call is creativity. To be creative. I'll run through these now quickly. To be creative means two things. One is think out of the box, and the other is push the envelope further. And I've given many examples in every subject of being creative, and it is definitely a game changer if you can get your children to be creative in maths, in physics, in English, in Hindi, whatever. The third very important thing is critical thinking. You have to allow children to not take things for granted, to ask questions of how and why and where. If you Google something, you get 100,000 answers. How do you know which is which? And therefore, critical thinking is very important, to be looking at answers and finding out what it's trying to say. The fourth C that I have, and a very, very important one, is communication. In today's world, one of the ways that people are interacting more and more and more is to communicate, like I am communicating on a screen. And so communication becomes an extraordinarily important skill that all students must have. If they want to communicate their ideas, if they want to communicate their criticisms, if they want to be creative, they have to learn to communicate. The fifth C is to make choices. Learn to make choices. Information is everywhere, all kinds of information. I'll give you one little example. When I was a kid, I had 5 or 6 careers to choose from. You could join the army, you could join the civil services, you could be a businessman, and so on. There were about 5 or 6 things. Today, there are 100,000 careers, actually 1,000 major careers, and 100,000 sub-careers to choose from. How does one make a choice? Children have to be guided on these. They have to learn to make choices. Throughout their lives now, they will be confronted with making choices because there's so much information. The sixth C, which is a great one for Sonarians. Sonarians have this great quality of courtesy. And I think that is a very, very important skill to have. To be able to smile, to be able to be courteous, to hold the door open for someone, to stand up when someone senior comes. These courteous gestures make for the beginning of a good relationship. And Sonarians are very good at this. I love it. Whenever I was walking around, they would very genuinely say, "Good morning, sir," or "Good evening," whatever it is. So don't lose that, Sonarians. And then we come to being candid. To be able to speak the truth, to be candid and say what you want to to say. And for this, you also need to be courageous. You need to have courage in you to say, this is important for me. And then we come to the new paradigms of this century, and that is collaboration and competition. You know, when you play in a team, say a game, you're collaborating. But at the same time, you're competing with each other to play as well as you can, play better than your teammate, before you start competing with others. So these two skills, to collaborate, to learn to collaborate, to not be afraid to collaborate, to talk to other people, and then to do better than them, is an important skill, to collaborate and to compete. And then we come to citizenship. All of us are citizens of a city, of a community, of a country, of a world. And we have responsibilities towards being that, holding that position. Whether it is in the community we live in, whether it is in the city we live in, whether it is in the world we live in, the country we live in. So this is another skill that has to be taught and put into our children as they grow up. And finally, boys and girls, the last C that I have, perhaps one of the most important, is compassion. Compassion. There are dictionary meanings of compassion, but let me give you my meaning. Compassion to me is to love with a passion. To love the trees that surround you with a passion. To love the birds that fly and flit out of them with a passion. To love all creatures with a passion. To love the sky, the blue skies and the birds and the clouds, and the mountains and the plains and the forest, all with a passion. Love the air you breathe with a passion. Love, finally, love the deprived, love the disabled, love those who are not as fortunate as you are. Love your neighbor. Love the world you live in. And so, boys and girls, I commend to you a wonderful future. A future that holds enormous promise, provided you learn to adapt to what is happening and you know the skills that are required to cope with this future. I congratulate you all for the wonderful results you have produced, for the lovely school that you live in, and your headmaster has done so much. I feel proud of him. I feel proud of all the Orisonarians. There are hundreds of them I hear from and hundreds I don't hear from. But whoever I know is around, I feel proud of them. And I have a great sense of satisfaction. And the reason is, the satisfaction is because I live my dreams through you. Whatever you are doing as an Orisonarian, for the dream I had, not only for yourself, but also for myself. So take yourselves forward, and in that process, take the world forward, take the country forward, take your school forward. Thank you very much.